Good morning, everyone. In today's show, I am going to be talking about how to know if you're ready to move on to the next progression and why getting the technique very, very perfect. That was terrible English, terrible grammar, but why being a stickler for good technique is really, really important for your progression. I'm also going to answer some really good questions from our tribe on the Movement Mastermind, a few things about overstretching and how to incorporate other movements into your program. All that and more coming up.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.
All right, welcome to the show. In case we haven't met, if you guys don't know me, my name's Rad Burmeister. I'm one of the co-owners and co-founders of Unity Gym and the Foundation Movement System, where we teach people how to nourish and move instead of how to diet and exercise. And Yanni's out doing some work today, so he's working on some of our other projects. Unfortunately, unable to join me, but some really cool stuff is coming your way. That's why sometimes Yanni or I aren't here. We've just got a lot going on here. So we've got some really cool questions today, and they've all come from our tribe members in the Movement Mastermind. And I'm going to start off with talking about what the title of this show is: how important is form? So Andrew McCown has asked, sorry if this question has already been answered in one of the videos, but for phase 1 and phase 2, is it okay to replace jumping pull-ups and eccentric pull-ups with regular pull-ups if I can already do at least 4 times 8 reps? Or should I follow the foundation part strictly until I get to phase 4? So it's a great question, Andrew, and the pull-ups is one of the most common exercises that we allow people to progress in. It's also one of the exercises that is the most complicated and difficult to progress in. So a lot of people say that they can do good pull-ups, and I'm doing the little quotation marks here because our definition of a good pull-up is very different to what a lot of people that come to the gym seem to think a good pull-up is. What most people think is if they can go from hanging to getting their chin over the bar, that's a chin-up or a pull-up or whatever you want to call it. But for us, a pull-up is only counted if people can depress the scapula, and even at the higher levels, we look for retraction in the scapula as well. But absolutely, if the scapula does not depress and stay depressed from the bottom to the top, and that the chin, at least the middle of the neck gets above the bar, we call that a no rep, and that doesn't count. And if that's the case, we get people to work on eccentrics. So where are you on that scale? You need to send us a video and show us. We need to see it on the Facebook page so that we can have a look and tell you if your pull-ups are good enough. Because if they're not, then eccentrics are what's going to develop that strength for you. If you can't fully depress your scapula, pull yourself up so that the middle of your neck gets above the bar, then the way that you're going to do that is with eccentric reps, and also with some of the bridging exercises like bicep curls and scap pull-ins, the exercises that are used to strengthen the weak links. So why do we use eccentrics? Because you're about 150% stronger on an eccentric contraction than you are on a concentric contraction. So a lot of people that can't do one pull-up will be able to do several eccentric pull-ups with really good technique. And what you're looking for there is, just like we explain in the tutorial, get the bar to your chest, full depression and as much retraction as you can get with the scapula, then lift those legs and go down as slowly as you can. When you can do 10 seconds of, when you can do 3 reps with no pause between reps and a 10-second eccentric, that should, in theory, that should equal 1 concentric repetition, and that's when you can start doing hybrid sets where you do a concentric rep and then a couple of eccentric reps to make up the volume. But yeah, who knows? Maybe your technique is really good, and you can, if that's the case, you absolutely can progress to pull-ups. And I hope that answers your question, Andrew. And that actually moves really nicely onto Ellen's question for today. Ellen says, "Hi guys, I'm loving the program so far, but I'm really missing my deadlifts. I'm also determined to get my double body weight goal by my birthday in September. I'm at 155% now, working back from a glute injury last year, before which I was only 5 kilos off." So Ellen, this ties in really well with Andrew's question, because the truth is, you know, we create the foundation movement system to take people from a baseline level and to work on all of the major movements that we focus on in the FMS from the ground up, so that people get a really good level of conditioning, strength, and mobility. And for some people, you absolutely are ready to do, you know, deadlifts and squats. You know, you've been strength training for 5 or 10 years or whatever, and, you know, you don't want to be losing the strength that you've gained in primary lifts like a deadlift. So if that's the case, if that's you, then for sure you can do your deadlifting on Friday, which is our hip bend day. Oh, excuse me, a bit of a yawn. On Friday, which is our hip bend or deadlift day, deadlift pattern day. And you'll do it first before anything else, and then you'll still go through the deadlift pattern movements, like the single leg deadlift and the all of the other stuff that we do to strengthen and create structural balance in the body in that movement pattern. So absolutely you can do that, and the same thing would go with a squat as well. Again, a deadlift and a squat, I've seen a picture of you deadlifting, and you definitely look like you know what you're doing, Ellen. I can see that. So that's totally fine. For a lot of other people, I would say, please upload a video so that I can have a look at your technique, because it's the primary strength training movements that so many people say, oh, I can do this, I've been doing it for years. And these are things like squats, deadlifts, bench press, bent over row, shoulder press, and pull-ups. Those are the main ones that people have, again, experience in. A lot of the time when you go back far enough, you can see that these people never actually conditioned their body properly to do these movements. And there's a reason in the FMS why we do all of this unilateral conditioning and structural balance before we move to those primary lifts. It's because if you don't create structural balance, if you don't create structural balance, meaning left and right side being balanced, and agonist and antagonist, opposing muscle groups for a joint being balanced, then you run the risk of injury, and that's worst case scenario. At best case scenario, you probably develop really poor muscle recruitment patterns, where you're recruiting your muscles properly. You develop poor movement patterns, and it has a glass ceiling that you're going to hit pretty quickly, where you just can't go beyond because you didn't nail the basics and you didn't balance your body out properly. So that's why we do the FMS that way. And if you're somebody that has experience, we really need to see if that experience has produced the results that we look for. And if it hasn't, you need to eat a bit of humble pie and go back to basics, work on the stuff that's going to have the biggest impact on your training, and don't worry about it. You'll get there. You'll get back to where you were. I won't even say you'll get back to where you were before, because going back to basics, if you've got bad movement patterns, that is moving forward. You are, for the first time ever, being shown by a coach that knows what they're doing, how to do things the right way, and that is moving forward. Don't see it as going backwards, because you're not going backwards. You're moving closer to your goals of being strong and flexible by, going back to the basics. So I hope that answers your question, Ellen. And now for Charlotte, we've got, I like this question because this is something that I can really relate to. I dealt with this a lot. So, excuse me guys, mustn't have had a good sleep last night. So Charlotte says, hey guys, last week I went pretty hard on the pancake mobility, as this is my weakest area. This week I have felt very tight and sore in my hips when I try to get into pancake. I could barely even sit in a straddle position today. It feels similar to the DOMs you get from strength training and seems to ease a bit when I gently stretch it out and foam roll the area. Therefore, I am wondering if it is possible to experience DOMs after doing active mobility, or is this a sign that I'm pushing myself too hard in the mobility drills? Maybe the split squat exercise is also contributing, as this seems to get into the hip flexors. Charlotte, you're right on both accounts. It is absolutely possible to get DOMs from stretching, from doing, from overdoing it with your mobility. That is something that we experience a lot. But when you get it right, you can get a little bit of DOMs, but not enough that it's going to prevent you from being able to stretch the next day or the next couple of days. When you get it wrong, which is where you are now, and you've really overdone it, what you've actually done is you've caused micro tears in the muscle. Because when you think about what stretching is, you know, if these are your muscle fibers and they're all sliding on each other like this, when you stretch, you're stretching those muscle fibers out, and if you go too far, they tear and you get micro tears in them. And once a torn muscle can't be stretched, because you think about it, what I just described there, you've torn your muscle, the muscle is trying to regrow, and every time you stretch it, you're pulling it apart again. So once you've got those micro tears in the muscle fibers, you have to rest. And this was I went through a lot of trial and error with this myself. When I was developing the pancake and the middle splits, I was, you know, really hungry for it, and I wanted to make it happen. And I overtrained several times, and actually more times than I could count. And so I'd often go through times where I was stretching really good for 2 or 3 weeks, and then I couldn't stretch properly at all for 1 or 2 weeks. And it was a frustrating experience, but I learned to listen to my body. I learned to understand how to push myself, but safely. And when I say how to listen to your body, I should explain that this road to mobility and this road to flexibility is paved with good days and bad days. And sometimes you even have good weeks and bad weeks where, oh, excuse me guys, I'm off the coffee at the moment, so haven't had any coffee today at all. You know, you can have you'll stretch one day and everything will go really, really well. And then for no reason, you'll stretch the next day and you'll just be really, really stiff. And you have to listen to your body on those days, which is really hard when you're trying to increase your flexibility. Because you might, on a pancake, you might lean, if this is my spine and this is my legs out here and I'm leaning forward on the pancake, you might go down to a 45-degree angle with a straight back and you're really high-fiving yourself for that. And then the next day you come in and you can barely get past a 60-degree angle. So you think to yourself, well, I'm going to push it. You know, I was there yesterday, I'm going to push it. That's where the problems come. On those days where your body's not feeling so good, you need to just listen to it and just do a light stretch where you'll do your mobility to, you know, to basically maintain what you've gained rather than to try and increase your flexibility. I talk about this a bit in the stretching programs that we do in the online stretching programs, where I say you do a heavy session of stretching followed by a light session followed by a heavy session by a light session. Because if you are doing a lot of mobility on the same muscle groups, if you're not doing the same muscle groups every day, it's a little bit different. But if you are doing it on the same muscle groups, then when you push yourself in a stretching session, you won't be able to push yourself as hard the next day. You'll have to back it off a little bit because you would have some of those DOMs. And if you don't, you're going to develop some of those micro tears that I've spoken about, and you're going to be in trouble. So I hope that answers your question. It's just, you know, take it easy, respect the process. It's going to take time. If you just remember consistency and frequency, it's the thing that we're always hammering on about here. And if you keep getting these micro tears, you can't be consistent and frequent. It's going to be totally inconsistent and infrequent. So I hope that helps, guys. That's about it for today. I don't want to harp on about these things. I wanted to get these answers out nice and quickly so that you guys would get what you were here for. And I will hopefully see you tomorrow for tomorrow's show. Have a great day and enjoy your training.
We are the gym that teaches people how to move instead of just exercise, because we believe that health is about performance, not just body image.